Yes. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine, Women, and Words. I'm Michelle, and Diana is here as well, of course. And we actually have our first returning guest, Tanya Bjork. And did I just butcher your last name, Tanya? Because if I did, I'm very sorry.
You got it.
And Tanya was one of Diana's co-hosts during my hiatus in December when I had to adult for the month and get ready to move instead of hanging out and talk about, books and wine and everything awesome that we do here.
I actually, before we get started on what we're reading, I thought I'd share this wine that I found. I don't remember where I found it. I think, I'm trying to think where I might have found it. I don't know, I can't remember, but it's Los La Chance. I don't know, it's a Chardonnay. That's what the label looks like.
It's pretty.
And it's spicy. It's a spicy Chardonnay. Like, I drank it, I was like, wait a minute. It like totally took me by surprise, and I'm actually quite liking it. So I thought I'd share.
I know, I'm kind of loving, I went label shopping with my mom last week and basically just picked out a bunch of wines purely based on how awesome their labels are. And I found this Sicilian wine called La Bastarda, and it has this woman sunning herself in like a 50s bathing suit, and it's awesome. But it's also very good too.
There used to be one, there was an Il Bastardo and then La Bastarda that had a hippo on it that I absolutely loved. So I don't know if it's the same makers or not, but it was just fantastic.
I love label shopping sometimes. It's a lot of fun.
It is. What are you drinking?
I should have brought the bottle up because it actually has a gorgeous, it's not even a label, it's like printed directly on there. I just got Trader Joe's. It's called Dearly Departed. It's got a skull made out of flowers on it, and it's just a red blend.
Yes, I drank that in October, right around our Halloween time. I love that one. It's a really good one.
Yeah, I hadn't tried it before, and I said, picking wine by the art on the label, it's never let me down.
It's a solid technique to pick out some good wine sometimes.
Apparently.
Yeah, and that's why the wine companies put so much into the labels. I have a friend who works for a labeling company that specifically does the labels for wine. And yeah, it's a serious business because there's people like us who are like, okay, we've got to go by what the label says.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. So I'm like wrapped up here tonight because it's winter has hit a little bit. We've dropped into the teens today. So I have to add layers because it's freezing out right now.
Oh no.
And well, we've been quite cold here, Michelle, so don't feel too bad. Tanya got down to like what? 50? No, I think 50 was our low today.
I know I went for a walk this afternoon and it was 68 out.
Like we had to wear boots. Exactly. Horrible. I actually had to wear an overcoat, Michelle. I don't know.
Well, anyway, I feel like I was going to join you guys on the episode that you came on, Tanya, in December, because I know for sure I had questions written down for you. So I almost feel like we've already spoken just because I had my questions prepared. But now I can't find that list anymore. So we're gonna wing it tonight.
I actually, because I know we ran out of time, I went back through the list and I was surprised we actually did cover quite a bit of it.
Yeah, we were efficient. I don't even know what I did with that list because right now I'm winging it since I'm working on the Book with the Oral Literary Festival and we're in that last month of pressure. So excuse me for tonight because yeah, everything's just on the fly because I am not preparing for anything.
So I guess. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask if we were what we were going to cover first.
Well, Well, I guess I'm completely new to the comic book world. Your comic was actually, I think, the first one I've ever read. I mean, besides like kind of just flipping through one. But I think, I mean, what kind of challenges do you face when you're working on a comic book series? I mean, you have to completely visualize your story besides writing it. How do you approach it where you can create an entire world from both sides, the illustrations and the story?
I was thinking about this about when people are making art for a comic book, they are basically like especially in a world that you're inventing, fashion designer. And then I got to thinking, oh, but you're also the casting director, and you're also the architect, and you're also, like the location scout. And for me, I think it's best to just try into one piece at a time. Otherwise, it's very overwhelming. Sometimes for a project, I'll have a very clear idea of exactly what's going on. And then there are other times where I just kind of like, I'll make a quick note. Like I still have the scraps of paper that I used when I made the first issue, which was the 24-hour comic book day challenge. So there wasn't a lot of time. And so like I have just like a sentence for each page. And then you kind of go back and you kind of drill into the details. And then for a larger project, a lot of it's just like checking continuity a lot. Like when I designed the character, it wasn't very symmetrical. Like she's got bracelets on one wrist and like the jacket pushed up, and then she's got 2 rips on one knee, and just to, like making sure you don't accidentally reverse those. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, it did. I mean, you know, writers, we have writer's block where, we hit a wall and we can't figure out how to get around it. But you have every kind of block to get around sometimes, I would imagine. So I don't know. And I can, I can draw a stick figure and call that art. So I mean, Lily can draw a mean stick figure too now, but.
Well, I mean, Don Hertzfeldt films, like, don't knock stick figures. XKCD. But it was amazing stuff that's been done with stick figures.
I don't know. I wouldn't put that much stock in my stick figures.
Yeah, mine I think are barely stick figures. It's a loose terminology of stick figures. It's like Picasso drawing a stick figure.
Right, yeah, I use that term loosely.
Or you say Picasso drawing stick figures. There is actually a very long-running comic called Bean World, where it's about these characters that live in like a 2-dimensional world, and it's kind of if Picasso drew stick figures.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's
that makes me think of.
I'm gonna be honest.
Just because my world, revolves around kids now, that makes me think of Inside Out. If you guys have seen the kids movie with joy and sadness, when they're going through the tunnel of abstract thinking and they go into the different dimensions.
yeah.
Oh, see, I'm so glad when someone knows what I'm talking about. But I mean, those are decent stick figures. Mine are not.
Well, it's practice, right? I mean, you think about handwriting, like you're literally learning how to draw these letters when you first start. They're not uniform, they're kind of all over the place. It's practice. But it's definitely an investment in time.
And for those of you who didn't join us in December, who don't know what comics we're talking about, Tanya's comic is the Havenhurst series. And I know the last time we spoke, you were looking at getting issue 5 out. Yes, it was wonderful. How are you coming with issue 5? Is it still in the works, or?
It is still in the works. There was an incident where my thumb got sprained. It's still not quite back to normal. And then I got a cold for a month straight. And then my back started acting up. So it's like I was so excited about getting ready in time for WonderCon. That's not going to happen, but it's still happening. I'm penciling the pages.
Good.
I'm very excited about getting that out.
Well, one of the things I was talking to Michelle about before you joined us, before we went on the air, was that what I like about comics in a lot of ways is like they're little short stories. Like before we had comic series, going back to like the 1920s and beforehand, we have short stories that were told in snippets or like just one issue of a newspaper or a literary magazine. Like with not Ernest, I'm looking at Ernest Hemingway and I'm thinking Ernest Hemingway, but I mean Scott Fitzgerald, where that was a lot of his day-to-day, how he made his money in between his novels was with those short stories. And there's so many elements that are similar to the comic and the short story, where you've got this intimacy within the comic. What are your thoughts on that, with Tanya, with the comics versus short stories? And I think I need to drink more wine because I'm babbling.
Well, as I was saying before the live bit started, is I have 2 stacks of examples of comics, and one of them is anthologies. And one of the really great things about anthologies is not only do you get a variety of stories and styles, but you have these short self-contained stories. And some of these, like, you know, I've read like, you know, the big thick epic comic series. I mean, probably my first biggest influence was ElfQuest, and that's been going on for like decades now. But there are stories from anthologies that are, you know, have been like 4 or 6 pages that have stuck with me. Like I still think about them. Like they're just so powerful.
I love that, and it's great to hear that they have anthologies with comics like they do with short stories. Because I mean, you know, Kurt Vonnegut's short story, one of his short stories has stuck with me since I was a teenager. The Lady and the Tiger short story is by far one of my favorite short stories ever. So I love that. I love that idea of that.
Yeah, and I've heard it said, like, if you can't tell your story as a short story, then you don't know your story very well, which I think is a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I think the same could probably be said with comics, because even though you have points where you leave off, you have to know exactly where you leave off. You've got to have your climax going through, and just because you have, you know, you're leaving the audience hanging, doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're just going to end the story right in the middle. That's what happens with stories, with books that do that. You can't have it with a comic either.
Yeah, I mean, it's all storytelling, right?
So yes, exactly. And that's the big thing too, is you got to be good at doing the storytelling, because the art's only going to get you so far.
Yeah, you're definitely going to notice if the writing's bad.
Yeah, like I picked up there was a newer version of Alice in Wonderland that I picked up because the art looked interesting, and the storytelling wasn't so great. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is not for me. I shouldn't just pick up something just because it says Alice in Wonderland on it. Lesson learned.
I think that's really interesting for comics and graphic novels, that you have to make sure that you're writing. I mean, I imagine that you would have to make sure your writing matches your art, that you have to come strong from both sides. Otherwise, you know, you can't rely on one to carry the other. If you know, the drawing isn't strong, you won't hold your audience. And if your writing isn't strong, then you can't count on your art to carry it through.
Yeah, and this gets very tricky, especially if you're looking at a collaboration. You know, people who don't do all of it, they need to team up. It's like you need to find a good fit between those styles.
And that's a lot of collaboration in the comics.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, you think of like the big 2 publishers. You've got people who, like, you don't even have just one person doing the art. You've got sometimes somebody who's doing the pencils, and then somebody who does the inks, and somebody who does the flatting, which is in preparation for the person who does the coloring. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of roles to fill.
Yeah, I remember going through the storyboard with you when we were looking at how you were doing Havenhurst, and yeah, it has a lot of work to do a stand-up comic series.
And it all has to work together. Like, it has to be a good fit.
See, Michelle, we have it easy by being writers. Writers, we've got it easy.
Yeah.
So for people who, like myself, who don't really know what goes into the type of work that goes into creating a comic, could you just give us a really quick overview? Because I had, like what you were just saying, the pencils and the matting and the ink. I had no idea that there are so many steps. I thought it was just draw the picture and go.
We're introducing Michelle to a whole new world tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who it is literally their job to letter. Like, that is all they do. They just add the lettering to a comic, and there is an art to it. Like, there is a science to it. Like, you can get like really, really complicated, but I was showing, like, I still have them up here because I'm doing the penciling now. But I first start out with the script, and even before that, I kind of go, like, talking about, having the same arc with the climax and the ending and everything. I decided I was going to do these all a set number of pages, so I'm going through, and each of these pages is a beat. I'm trying to, like, what happens here, what happens here, what happens here, to kind of space everything out and make sure that it all works. Then I have the actual script where I figure out, like, how many panels on each page, what is the exact dialogue going to be, and then I do the thumbnails. So this is just basically like a very rough, just to kind of get the composition and the flow of what the page is going to look like and make sure the dialogue fits.
And I'm looking closely just to see if I can see any spoilers.
I think hopefully it's light and small enough.
We're gonna watch this on our phones later, going like this to like zoom in.
Well, this is only the first 17 pages out of 48, so it shouldn't be too bad if you can.
You're right. It is pretty light. I couldn't see much, so I couldn't really make out the shapes too well.
Then I have a clothesline that I hang up on a wall, and I pencil out the pages. And once that's all done, then I go back and I ink, which is doing like the final art. Then what I do is I scan it in, and then I do the coloring. And people have different processes. Like, some people will letter digitally, some people will do the coloring and the shading with actual like watercolor or ink washes. Some people do it entirely digital. The process is a little bit different for everyone, so it's just kind of whatever works for each individual or team.
Wow. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that doesn't even get into pre-press. Like, don't even get me into like just how complicated blacks get. Like, if you think black would be black, that is not the case.
This is a whole new world I can obsess over and like nitpick in. It's very exciting. Absolutely, and it's great for you to like think for a mom thing if you want to have a quick read. So like in between, like while the kids are running around and doing their thing, you can totally pick up a nice quick read, and be able to say you finished something while the kids doing their thing.
It is, and I was able to read the Havenhurst series that Diana sent over to me because I thought I was going to come on the show and join you guys, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read these things, and I don't even know when I'm going to find time. But then I sat down and I was like, oh, this is easy. I can read this very quickly. But it's really kind of daunting to hear how much work goes into a comic when you can go through them so quickly, and they're so easy to get through and to read, but then you can go back and take in all the details that you may have missed the first time around, but that's a lot of work.
That's why
It is.
fans like myself and like Ryan, who we have our comics in these neat little plastic keepers so that grubby hands don't ruin them and they don't get destroyed. So as soon as you read it, it goes right into here. It doesn't get bent, doesn't get ruined. Because in so many ways, there's so many that are still very collectible. And I know when it comes to Ryan, he loves getting the first editions, and he loves seeing the ones like that the artists do, because he really appreciates especially the cover art. He's a cover art fan when it comes to the comics.
And yeah, so does he get like all the variant covers?
Yes, he likes the variant covers. Those are his favorite, particularly Rocket. Rocket is his favorite comic series right now. He has a slight boy crush on Rocket Raccoon. I guess it's considered a boy crush. You can't really consider it a bestiality crush. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Rocket is from Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, the little raccoon that has a really foul mouth and likes to make jokes. And I got him the graphic novel series. There was like 2 or 3 of them in his series. So he got that for Christmas.
Nice.
When we write each other on our Christmas presents, and I was like, in order for you to open this, I need this, and that guy's fake leg. And he's like, what the hell did you get me? And I'm like, and I'm cracking up, like, just open it, you'll see.
Don't question my genius.
Exactly. So Tanya, what comics do you have that you can recommend to Michelle?
All right.
This is what we're recommending them to Michelle, so Michelle take notes so you can learn. And I'm getting some of these recommendations from Tanya because she's got obviously such great taste in comics I've never heard of. So,
so like I said, I narrowed it down to anthologies that specifically feature women and creators who do both the writing and the art. Otherwise, there would be too many. There is a writer, Kelly Sue DeConnick, did a thing on Twitter. It was like within 24 hours, if you are a woman artist making comics, I will retweet you. So it was like a hashtag visible women. And she got inundated. Like there were too many. She had interns. And she wasn't able to keep up with everything coming in within a 24-hour time span that came out of a tweet. So there are a lot of us. The first one I pulled up, I don't have her nautical specific comic yet, but I thought of her specifically because of the book Golden Dragon. Because there's so many terms. There's like, if I had worked on a tall ship, I would probably know what this means. But Lucy Bellwood, she describes herself as a adventure cartoonist.
Ooh.
So she has cartoons of going comics documenting her trips doing whitewater rafting down the Grand Canyon. She did work as a tall ship sailor for a couple years. So she has a large collection called Baggy Wrinkles that includes a bonus comic about the history of scurvy.
Nice.
And she's an all-around fantastic person. And this was a book that she credits with kind of kickstarting her career, and it's just about basically being a comic creator. But it's like it gets into some heavy topics, but it's kind of interesting. I was flipping through earlier, and it's like this is years ago. Like she's grown so much as a creator since then. Just interesting to see how the art shifts, which is always nice to see. Next one would be still a little bit along the lines. Kate Beaton. She does a lot of historical comics, and if you want to talk about something short, like, I mean, this is the Secret Garden. She does like a lot of comics based on history and literature. She usually kind of poke fun at it with a little bit of a feminist angle.
There's your girl, Diana.
I know. I already. I'm like, where am I gonna? I've got to go buy her stuff this weekend. So.
Here's some on Napoleon.
That's so cool.
And she's got a couple kids books out now too. Another one is, what is this? Oh. Jill Thompson, this Scary Godmother. She also does artwork on a series called Beasts of Burden. It's basically, it's animals that solve mysteries with like a horror slant.
Nice.
But she does, all of her stuff is, it's not like, this is all watercolor, this entire thing. And the art is just gorgeous.
That's crazy.
It's, yeah, it's pretty insane. Like, there's like no digital. Like, I've seen videos of her work, and she's so fast. It's insane.
You guys, I need a job just to support my book habit, and you guys are adding to the list.
Well, comics in general I don't find them to be super costly, which is another thing that kind of is killer when it comes to all that work that you put in. Because, gosh, Tanya, how much do you charge for your comics?
$5 for the current issues. The ones now on are going to be $10 because they're twice as big.
Understandable.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's not that much. And like when you go to like the comics book store, I mean, I paid as little as a couple dollars, going all the way up to like $5 or $6, depending on how old they are and how popular they are. So I mean, they're really not that, they're really cost effective.
Yeah,
and when you go out and buy like 100 of them at a time, it adds up.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a good problem to have.
True. I mean, I could think of worse things that I have to worry about.
On books, you never overspend on them. It's an investment.
It's all research. It's all research.
Yeah, for me it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, already with the first one that you pulled up, was it not Kelly, Lucy. I could see some of her influence on what you've done, like at least with her bubbles. I saw a little bit, that reminded me a little bit of yours. So it's like, is Lucy one of your inspirations, art-wise?
I actually discovered her after I started making comics, so we must have a common inspiration.
You must.
There. So I'm kind of curious what that is.
You might have to look into that now.
Yeah, I know. I would love to meet her one day. This one is this is young adults, and this one actually, this creator has been on the New York Times bestseller list for years. So it's kind of interesting when they talk about like comics being sold, they don't bring her up. Of course, the New York Times got rid of its comics section, which is unfortunate. It's a recent thing. But this is about a girl that has an unfortunate incident with her teeth and has to have braces, and just, of course, all the things that come with being a girl turning into a young woman. And dude, I had braces when I was a kid. Like, I had like the headgear and the spacer and everything. I would have loved for this book to have been around during that time. But she's got a number of books out. They're just like selling like crazy. So it's interesting that, this has kind of been at the top of the bestsellers list for so long. But when we talk about the success of comics and what comics are. Like, it's so weird that she gets left out of the conversation because it's a woman making slice of life comics that is geared towards young girls, young women. You know, when people think of comics, sometimes all they think about is the Marvel and DC, the superhero cape comics, but that's not what comics always were, and that's not what comics all are to this day.
And I think it's still very situated where you have the male perspective on comics, where, like you said, there's so many women. That one, Pseudotonic, where she got inundated by women in comics. Because it is that stereotype still where you have, it's a male-dominated profession where, DC is primarily men that work there, hardly any women from what I understand.
Yeah, it's a very small, somebody just posted those numbers earlier today, actually. But yeah, it is definitely mostly men, which is why it's like when you look at indie comics, it's so many women, and it's because they're either not interested in what those big publishers are doing or they can't get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
But there are definitely women out there doing amazing work.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at the ones that I have, because mine are a little bit more mainstream, and I mean, there's still, there's still women involved. You know, at least one woman on most of the comics that I've got here. So it's, it's something that I think we need to push a little bit more. That hey, this is, comics aren't just for boys, and things shouldn't be just gender specific. Like, I was back to Star Wars when we brought up the story when we had Rachel. I'm not sure if you met Rachel through 501st yet, but we talked about how with her being a stormtrooper, and people are like, "Wait, you're a girl and a stormtrooper?" And we talked about a few stories where it's like, we had female stormtroopers who are, they have to take their helmets off because people don't believe that it could be a girl. And I've been to events where I went to one and the kids they lost their shit over one of the. We did an event for orphans at the Orangewood Children's Home, and it was just this very select private event that we arranged, and one of our scout troopers was a girl that was there, and the kids were like, she spoke, and the kids just, they lost their minds because there was a lot of girls there. They were like, "You're a girl? This is so awesome!" And they were following her around. They're holding her hand. They wanted to know everything about her. She was their favorite person. Well, I should say second favorite person, because the stormtroopers got grilled. And when I say grilled, I mean I thought I knew a lot of Star Wars trivia. These kids knew more than I did.
Wow.
They were. But yeah, I think it's one of those ones where we're gonna have to break those stereotypes. I mean, obviously, I like having you on, and you do an awesome comic. I love your comic.
Thank you. It's like when you talk about those kids, it's just like you can't see somebody's face light up when they see themselves portrayed. Mm-hmm. Like see themselves reflected in entertainment or something that they admire. You can't see them light up like that and say representation doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just so important. And that's actually one of the things where I keep getting asked if I'm going to do anything with the 501st, and like one of the things is just like, it would be kind of cool to be able to take off my helmet and like, hey.
That's what pushed me into getting my Stormtrooper outfit, even though I haven't put any work into it since the holidays. It's because I wanted to be able to do that representation where I could look up my helmet and be like, yeah, I'm a girl. What about it? Because I've seen the kids react so positively to it. So
yeah.
So anyways, I think we should probably start talking about the Golden Dragon. I think it's that time.
Yeah, I had way more books. But that goes to prove the point. It's just like there are just so many, and these are just like the ones that I have. It's not even all the ones that I want that are like narrowed down. So yeah, there's just like there's a lot of amazing women.
And I think with mine, the ones that I pulled out, my primary ones, mine were with kick-ass portrayals, pretty much, of women. Like when Dark Horse Comics had the Star Wars series, they did Star Wars Legacy, which I was sad that ended once things went back over to Marvel. But that one, was it Jaina Solo? She was a great granddaughter of Han Solo. She was pretty awesome. I really liked it. And then, just real quickly, Mercy Thompson. You guys have all heard me talk about Mercy Thompson. And
Yes, I've heard her.
Yes, and you can finally read the series now because it's on comic form. Not just not really. It's not the book series per se, but it's other adventures in her universe.
Oh, okay.
So I finally should get you to read this. And then who does not love Tomb Raider? I mean, seriously, especially the rebooted Tomb Raider. The new Lara Croft is. I like her. She's pretty kick-ass. She's sexy, but not like unrealistically. I'm gonna wear shorts in the middle of the jungle. Sexy, because that's just not realistic.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Yes. Anybody who has ever been to a tropical climate can tell you, don't wear shorts in the middle of the jungle. There's things like malaria and snakes and other weird creepy crawlies and vines that make you itch. I know this from experience.
But those shorts look so convenient.
Hot, but now when you're like trying to actually do tough rough and tumble stuff.
Now, I have one more quick question before we do Golden Dragon. Okay, do you say comic book writer, artist? What's the proper term?
I just say creator.
Creator. Okay. As a comic book creator, how close is the community of other creators? Is it really tight knit, or is it kind of difficult to break into for a newcomer? Or what is it like in that world? Because it's a whole different culture that I really don't know anything about.
Yeah. Well, I guess like kind of going into the whole it being like a whole new world. So are you talking about the zine community, or the indie community, or the webcomic community, or the I am a member of a group called the Ladybugs. It's the Los Angeles Women's Comic Creator League. I'm not in Los Angeles anymore, but I still belong to them. And they meet once a week, and they've got another anthology coming out soon. But they had this one that came out. I've got a story in there. So that's a really awesome group, and it's kind of has like its little groups, like people who tend to have similar styles or interests will kind of like clump together, just like any other group where social and professional tends to overlap. But it's a very small community, so it's interesting. Like when I start thinking about how many people I know in the comic book community, and I think I might have gotten lucky because it was in the Los Angeles South Bay area, and there are a ton of creators there, a really strong community. But then there's also two creators who I really enjoy. Is Katie Cook, who did a web comic called Gronk. And she did a lot of adorable Star Wars art. Like, I don't know, the Facebook stickers that are like cute little Star Wars drawings. Those are hers. And Jeremy Bastian, who does Cursed Pirate Girl, which is gorgeous. The art, it's done like 1700s French cartoon, like cross-hatch. They are both from a small town called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like there are these communities everywhere, but geographic aside, like online, there's a lot of ways for all the comic creators to connect, and it's interesting to see how it's such a huge and small community at the same time.
Interesting. Well, I have like a list. I've been writing down basically every name that you've been saying. So I have my starters kit for comic books now.
Yay.
I'm sure my husband will thank you guys later when I go on Amazon and start searching for all of these. And
Now, that's a good question. Can we get now the comics that you mentioned? Are they available in your general comic store, or do you get to go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble?
Most of these that you can get in a store, if they don't have it, they can usually order it pretty quickly or online. A lot of them are available online. I'm trying to think if there's any. Yeah, like these should all be pretty easy to find. The Ladybug anthology might be trickier, but there is a way to order online, or the Comic Bug at Manhattan Beach has them. Just because it's a local based community. And I think they're working on getting that on Comixology, so it should be on there soon.
So Michelle, that means you have to go make an adventure over to the comic book store near you. I wanted to come. Yeah, I know, you sound so depressed.
I guess if I have to.
Comic book shops are better than they used to be in the 90s. It used to be a very different experience.
Yeah, the first time I went into one, like it was really only because I kind of read comics when I was a kid growing up, and my cousins had Superman, and I'm sorry, but Superman is a douchebag. I can't stand him at all whatsoever, even though the gorgeous Henry Cavill now plays him. I've tried, I can't do it. And Lord knows, Michelle knows I love a Henry Cavill. But I'm waiting for the true story for Michelle.
I just, for Superman, I just can't get behind the fact that he takes off his glasses and no one recognizes him anymore.
Right, or it's not even that. I mean, you have the other Mass Avengers who have stuff, and you're like, oh, gee, I can't tell who it is. But it's a reverse from what everything else is. I think that bothers me too. Where, sorry to get on this sidetrack, where you have like the real person, like Peter, who's Spider-Man. The real person, he's a married teenager, but his alter ego is that of the Spider-Man who is everything that he feels that he's not. And Superman is a complete mirror opposite of that. And I kind of find it a little insulting to the human race. I'm just saying. So that's where I come from. So that's the world that I was raised with. And so I never really fully got into comics until I was much older. I love superhero movies. I love movies. I love cartoons. And gosh, I want to say, I think my husband was gone, and all of a sudden he's overseas in like 2010 or 11, and I'm messaging him like, oh, I went to the comic book store today, and I got this and this. He said, what? You're into comics now? Yeah, they're great. And he just thought it was really awesome. But the first time I walked into a comic book store, I expected it to be something out of like Big Bang Theory, where I was going to be this weird girl, the only one in there, and it was going to be this awkward situation. And yeah, it's nothing like that at all.
Yeah, it used
Weird.
to be, but it's not anymore. And I honestly, I do not thank Big Bang Theory for pushing these stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much better now.
Yeah, and it's like there's the one that I go to in Huntington Beach. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. I just know it's over on Beach Boulevard in the Target Shopping Center. I want to say it's Comics Unlimited. I think is their name. They used to be next to a Thai restaurant, which is now a pizza place. But there's girls that work there. There's a couple of girls that work in that shop. And the other one, I went to another one too, and it was really great watching a father and daughter shop for comics together. Where the daughter is maybe like 9 or 10 years old, and she's like, I want this comic, I want this one. And Daddy, we don't have this one in our collection. It wasn't his collection, it wasn't her collection, it was our collection. And that was the thing that they had together was comic books. That was the father-daughter thing. Yeah, and I love that. And I love this changing attitude of the comic book world, where it's very inclusive now.
Comics are for everyone.
They are. They really are. Everybody's represented in them. Everybody, all sorts of people who create them. I love it.
Well,
So
that being said,
that being said, send them under the Golden Dragon.
so
So-
where is everyone? I read a little bit more tonight. I did take a little bit of a nap before the episode because I'm 2 hours ahead of you guys and it's late. But so I'm right around chapter 4 right now. I think we're all kind of in the same place. Maybe. I might be wrong.
Tanya is probably ahead of us because she's the one who actually stuck to our schedule.
Okay.
I've read through 8.
See, this is why I love one of the reasons why I love having Tanya on as a guest is it's, you know, as soon as I ask her on, great, what book are we reading? And what's so special? What chapter should I be on? And she actually does it, whereas Michelle and I, who are the hosts, totally slacked off. I went away to San Diego this weekend, and I thought, okay, I've been so busy, but I'm gonna have all this time to read this because you know I absolutely want to read this book, especially since it's our book of the month. And we've got one friend named Eva, and then we've got now Eva. She's one of our authors at the Book of the Oro. So I'm like, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna have all this time to read it because my husband sleeps in till like 10 or 11 o'clock since you know he works at night. And yeah, no, I was not able to pick it up at all. We had such a tiny room. And we had hardly any light. So if I turned on the light, he'd start stirring within minutes. And I'm like, what's up? When am I going to get breakfast? And one morning I thought it was going to be all cool and chill, sneak out and go get coffee. But I was like, I need a shower. Here, what are you doing? It's like, oh, you want to go get breakfast with me? I know it's a romantic weekend and everything, but yeah, I was just gonna sneak off and read a book. No big deal. So I'm only at chapter 4.
But you have lots of new tiki glasses.
Yes, we pretty much doubled our collection.
I would imagine.
We had a lot, and there were some he was surprised. There were a couple that I wanted that I had to pick up and ask. So he was like, "Sure." I wasn't expecting that. I'm not going to tell you no, especially on this.
All right, don't question it. Just say yes and move on.
Exactly. So, speaking of the all-inclusiveness, what are you guys' thoughts on our main character, Miriam?
Well, I really like her. I feel like, you know, Dido's Crown was in Tunisia last month. I kind of feel like we're circling the same region-ish. Not really, but kind of.
Which is nice. So many books, especially, one of the reasons why I like the Golden Dragon too is that so many of the steampunk era stories are set in London. Almost every single one of them are in London. And you get a few, there's the Native Star, which was in San Francisco, and you're starting to see more pop up on in the United States. But now seeing hers, we've got, you know, we start off she's from Iran. The story takes place in that, I forget which country we're actually in, but it's
I
definitely
think it's Algiers is
Yes.
where it starts.
Yeah, and then now where I left off, they're talking about going to the South China Sea.
Yeah, so she has her new mission. All right, I want to find out what she did or what's going on to make her so indebted to the British.
Yes.
Because they are kind of like treating her like their own personal expendable little spy. Like, oh, if she dies, it's no big
You're
deal.
trying not to give away spoilers right now, aren't
And it's worth it to her. So it had to be something big.
Right? I mean, otherwise I'd be like, okay, just, you know, let me off at the next island and bye.
Yeah, that's right. We're like, oh, I can let you off in Algiers, or you know, let you off the next part, or I can just take you back to Iran. And she's like, no, keep going. It's okay. Cool.
The dangerous mission to that involves pirates in the South China Sea.
Right? Yes.
Although I want to mention, speaking of pirates in the China Sea, are you aware of Madame Cheng?
Yes.
I am not.
Yeah.
Who is Madam Chang?
I know my pirates. I know my pirates. Yes, Madam Chang. I love her.
I kind of have my finger, like, I don't even know if it's the right time frame, but I'm just like, oh please, oh please, oh please.
Oh, now that you say that, I'm like, yes.
Like, I love that she actually retired. Like, she had this huge, massive fleet, and she retired, unlike, you know, the nasty ends that so many pirates tend to meet.
And that's what, you know, that's another great thing about, like, the female pirates is she retired. Grace O'Malley was a pirate too. She retired too. The women do it right, but don't be.
Because we know when it's time to step down. What?
I'm sorry. My dog is agreeing with us.
But it's interesting that she's so confident when shit is going down. Like, you know, when the British Navy is bombarding the city, and then there are times,
like, it's not a big deal. Like, okay.
yeah, she doesn't have a charge attitude, but when it's not a crisis situation, she doesn't seem very sure of herself. Like, she seems kind of like, you know, sort of, I don't want to say demure, but it's interesting to see, like, how she behaves when she's under fire versus when she's in a more normal situation.
I wonder how much of that is a cultural influence too, because you consider the fact that she came from Iran. It's a very strict culture, and, you know, the women are meant to be, in so many regards, not making a generalization, but in so many regards, women are meant to be seen and not heard. So she's supposed to be demure to an extent and shy. And when she's acting in these, you know, dangerous situations, she forgets that. And I feel like her real self comes out in those dangerous situations, but yet when she's not in those dangerous situations, she has to think about it and get pause. And I think that kind of is such a great point with her character.
One thing, I checked to make sure that I wasn't going to be doing spoilers, because I did read ahead, but when they're having dinner and they talk about how the men were served pork, and then they had, like, a separate fowl dish prepared for her because of religious preference, the way it's stated, it doesn't say that is her religious preference, just that that they are assuming that is her religious preference. So I'm kind of curious about that.
Well, I think it's a cultural thing too. Hold on. I'm having to come up with questions for our discussion for Book of the Arrows. I hit a stalemate, and that was such a great question. I was like, I gotta write that down, because, you know, not only we're gonna have to ask her at the end of the month, but I'm gonna talk to her about that at the festival too. But getting back to what you were saying with pork, I don't think it's not just a religious thing; it's a cultural thing. My husband was stationed in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I would send him packages, and the one thing I wasn't allowed to send to him was pork. Any pork products, like, they would ask me what was in there, and if they saw if I put like sausage or something, they would ask me what the ingredients were, because pork was it was illegal to even ship it into the country.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
So yeah.
Because when I was growing up, my mom dated a Muslim man. He was actually a refugee from Jordan. And during that time, like, you know, for breakfast, like, we would get turkey bacon. Like, we would just, like, didn't do pork at all. But he was very, very devout. So, but I mean, that makes sense. Like, it's predominant in the country. Lead over to a cultural thing. And what I found interesting is that she, like, the way it's worded is like it's an assumption of her preference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, because it seems very, very coy about, like, disclosing exactly, you know, how close she is to those views. From
She seems pretty happy to let them to roll with their assumptions. Like, you know, it's easier for her to fly under the radar and
Yeah.
whatever she's actually doing than to like stop and say, you know, oh, you know, I'm good. Pass that this way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably
she's like-
simpler.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, oysters. I'm just vegan. They've got stuff for me here. I love it. I'm just going to scoop them around while they keep talking. Love that about her.
I'm interested to hear about her relationship with her black father, her stepfather.
Blackwell.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I've read just past that dinner, so you know, she just found out that her stepfather is going to be in Hong Kong where she's going, and she seemed like not thrilled about that. When I read the name, when they said, well, you know that his name is Francis Blackwell is stationed there, and she didn't react. I was like, wait, that's her stepfather's name, right? Like, why aren't you happy? So I feel like there's like family drama going on that we need to learn about.
Well, I think the word drama specifically was used in reference to what she's running from. And she's not running with her family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So I feel like she's going to be a really complex character, and I sense sarcasm in the future because
You've got a wonderful radar for sarcasm, Sheldon.
she doesn't like you. She doesn't take any crap from anyone, and she kind of plays the fact that she's a woman to her advantage, and she lets, like, you know, she raided the Lady Elgin's closet by pretending that all she wanted was a pretty dress.
I think like there was a point where she said like it's not easy to convince men that women are stupid.
Right, exactly. So she plays it up well to work in her favor, and I like that about her.
I'm sorry, I'm taking notes.
Are you writing down questions as we go?
Yes, because I'm coming up with all these wonderful questions that I'm like, I'm not going to be able to wait and ask Ava and, you know, at the festival. We're going to be asking her these specific questions when she comes on, because she'll be on at the end of the month.
Well, we're gonna have a lot more because you know me.
I knew. That's 20 questions minimum.
It's, you know, it took me, for some reason, we've been reading a lot of historical fiction lately, and now switching into kind of like the science fiction realm. It took me a little while to like mentally shift to be able to, you know, focus on what I was reading. So at first I kind of was like, wait, what's going on? Like, what war are we in? What's happening? Who's fighting who? Excuse me.
Yeah, especially with all like the technical nautical terms. I thought it was interesting that they weren't upfront with her about the nature of the non-such. Like, she's going to be writing this thing.
Right? It's a crack ship. Like, come on. You think she's not going to notice that she's in the air?
Yeah. It's like maybe it'd be a good idea to mentally prepare her for an experience like that. Also, the non-such. What an amazing name for a ship.
I do love that name, though. It's
Now that and Valentine Dashwood.
I mean, some of their names are on point. Dashwood, and who is the captain of the non-such? It's
Like Maxwell.
Maximus something.
I want to say it's like Elixith or Lexith. I don't know. Do one of you guys have the book? Everybody went downstairs.
Thorpe.
Thorpe?
With an E at
Thorpe.
the end.
That's right, Thorpe.
That's a very common name.
All of these names are like very grand, you know, like they command a huge character. So I'm not positive, but I'm starting to sense like the possibility of a love triangle, since Dashwood wants to go too, and he's already kind of expressed some kind of interest in Miriam. So I'm fully prepared to take sides.
We can get t-shirts made and everything. It would be wonderful.
I'm sensing I mean, I could be wrong and it could not happen at all, but I'm predicting a Dashwood versus Thorpe situation.
And this is only the first book in the series, so if Dashwood versus Thorpe does not happen in this book, it's very possible that can happen in the next book.
This is a series.
This all sounds so different.
No, not a bad way, but are they all published already?
I don't think so, but I think she's working on them. They're going to be sooner rather than later. I don't want to quote her on this or anything, because I know she's talked about, so I've heard somebody else when reviewing has talked about the series as a whole. So this is just, I think the other ones maybe are an advanced reading stage, maybe? I don't know, we'll have to ask her. We'll have to ask her about that.
All right, so read slow is what I'm getting.
Well, we can't read that book, so we have to actually finish it by the, was it 26 that we're having her on?
Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
I'm already on chapter 8.
Well, I think our hour is up for the evening. That went by fast.
I know.
And my wine is gone. That's how I could tell.
Alas.
Such a sad thing.
And now that this is over, we have to go to chores. We really have to be over.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for coming back. I know this was a return, so we really appreciate you joining us again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And keep working on Havenhurst because I want to know what happens next.
And once episode 5 actually comes out, or I should say issue 5, whichever, we'll have to have you back on for issue 5 because obviously we need to know what happens next on that, and we'll need to talk about it and
dissect it and offer theories and
yes,
do what we do.
I'm really curious to see what kind of theories people come back with. I had a guy that bought the full run at a convention. He came back the next day and he just had so many questions, and it was just like really interesting because I'm just like, I'm so close to it that I literally cannot zoom out and see what everyone else sees. So it's really interesting to see what kind of theories or like patterns people see.
That's really cool.
After the last episode that you were on, after we went off air, you and I were, Tanya and I were talking, and I was like, okay, so these are the theories I have that are spoilers. I didn't want to share with everybody else. And I'm going through them, and it was like, her face was just classic because it was, I know spoilers, you're on the right track, but I don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah, I wish I could put these out faster. Having the bad back does not help, but they're definitely going to come out. Like, this is a story that I need to tell, and
you're right. That's one of the things that I've seen other authors talk about when it comes to the comics as well, the series, is you write the story that you have to write, that you need to tell, but you do it at your own pace. We can't tell you, as much as we can tell you to hurry up and get it done, we can't. It's only worse because you've got to focus on your quality versus just the quantity, because then, if you're just focused on getting the quantity out, you're going to lose the story that we love so much.
Yeah, it's okay. I could just release the script, but it wouldn't be the same.
No, it wouldn't. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody else, join us next week. Now, in theory, we're going to try to get past chapter 8 for next week.
That's the game plan. Yeah. We're even shooting for what, 16? We're doing another 8 chapters?
Yeah, we're supposed to be at 16, so it worked out evenly that we'd be at 8 chapters, or 4 chapters a week. So if we can try to make it to 16, we'll. If not, we'll make it somewhere between 5 and 16.
We'll get there.
We definitely will. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Good night.
I will see everyone else next week.